take camera 5.
Thank you.
5. And go.
Well, I guess the first order of business, since our supervisor's not here this evening, we have to appoint someone to run the meeting.
I'd like to nominate Bill Palmer.
Certainly not that one.
That requires a vote, doesn't it?
Yes.
Is that a motion?
I'd make a motion to nominate Mr. Palmer to run tonight's meeting in the absence of our supervisor.
Support.
Okay, and then get another question, I guess, in the absence of the clerk, who is?
We have
Shelley.
our deputy clerk.
Okay, deputy
This
clerk.
should have called to order, actually.
We have
Oh,
a roll call.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Present.
Mr. Palmer,
Here.
Mr. Sutton, Mr. Woosterbarth,
present.
Ms. Richards.
And can we have a roll call vote on the motion?
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire, Mr. Woosterbarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer.
Okay. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the April 11th regular scheduled Township Board meeting, Oscoda Township. Next up is our agenda additions. Oh, yes, Pledge of Allegiance, sorry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, sorry about that. Get this here. I have a couple of changes to the agenda. First of all, I would like to take off of the agenda under resolutions the ordinance amendments. There are 6 ordinance revisions that were in our packet. Apparently, there's a question from our attorney. She wants to review a couple of things. Most of these were minor changes that we were proposing. It came from the Planning Commission, but when we sent it to the attorney, she has a couple of items that she wants to go over, and so once that's done, we will bring this back to the board for approval. So, the other is I would like to add to the agenda under other, extending our assessor contract. We're fortunate enough that our assessor is working with us and willing to stay on for a couple of more months. So I'd like to add that under other, number 2, I guess that would be 3. That would be number 3. And I think everybody has on the table in front of them a memo from the assessor with a copy of her extended contract. Are there any other agenda issues? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with changes?
So moved.
Support, Woosterbarth.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Woosterbarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer.
Yes. Motion passed. We are at our first public comment.
We have one card from Deborah Rauch.
Deborah Roush. If you
Yes.
And if you would just state your name for the record, please.
Deborah Rauch, and I live in New York, but I own 2 homes here. So I'm here on vacation right now. So, I was just, I noticed on here that the, ethics ordinance, and I believe this is what you guys discussed, you had a special work session a couple weeks ago, and it was in the paper. And, I guess you're gonna be voting on that tonight. And, I noticed in the paper that it said that you guys got rid of the committee that the attorney wanted to put into place. 5-person committee of 5 citizens. And I guess I just wanted to say, to me, it was kind of insulting that you guys said that you couldn't find 5 people in Oscoda that would be unbiased. I mean, that's just ridiculous, in my opinion, that it's like an insult to the township that you can't find 5 people that could be fair. So I think you guys should probably, reconsider that. These are the people that pay you, that vote for you. So maybe you guys should think about, insulting people in the township like that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Did we have any more comment cards?
No.
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have the meeting minutes, the annual meeting minutes for March 16th. Any comments on that? The work session minutes of March 28th. Anyone have comments on that? I have one comment on that I think there should be a change, where it, under additions, and then it has the headline of, this is on page 6 of the packet, the ethics ordinance discussion with township attorney. It lists censure in there. Censure should be spelled S-C-N-S-U-R.
Yep.
Instead of what's here. And I don't believe that sentence there is correct, where it says censure is a board action. It is a board action, but it says an ordinance is voted on. That's not what censure would be. I think the statement should be something to the effect, censure is board action if a violation of the ordinance occurs. So if we could make that correction to the minutes, I think would be appropriate.
I had a thought too, I don't know if she does.
Is it turned on?
It's not,
Not working. Anyways, I'll try to speak up a little louder. My thought was too that what I took from our work session from the attorney is that we talked about contracted employees versus employees, and she made a point to say that the contracted employees wouldn't be covered in this, that they should be
Right.
covered in their own contracts.
Right.
And I thought maybe that should be outlined in the minutes, maybe a little bit too.
oh, I think it's a really good point. That's right.
So
Thank you.
I would like to see that.
Sure. I think
Yep.
that's probably something we should take up in all of our future contracts that
Right.
our attorney writes for us.
And my agreement comes from having that point having been raised in the Oscoda Press article and not because I was in attendance. Mr. Spencer and I were not there for the work session. So thank you for bringing that up.
The next was the regular board meeting of March 28th. Any comments on that? Having none, is there a motion to, well, first of all, let's go on to the payment of bills. First is, let's see here. April 5th, the amount of $126,827.61. Then April 12th, in the amount of $22,387.05. And then the CWSRF checking report. Does anyone have any questions on any of those?
What flags did we buy from Carrot Top Industries?
That was for Old Orchard Park and Township Hall.
Are they just new American
Replacement
flags,
flag.
or?
Yes. The one at Township Hall had a big rip in it, so.
Appreciate you keeping those flags cleaned up. That this flag etiquette makes a difference.
That's
No, I
part of
asked a
the
question.
consent agenda. That will go with the paying of bills. The one comment I would like to have on the bills is that I see the change has been made in the description line, and I've been bringing that up at several meetings. I appreciate getting those changes made so that it's a little clearer for everybody to understand what the bills are that we're actually paying. So were there any other comments or questions about the payment of bills?
Yep.
Then can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we could, fine enough, go ahead, Jamie.
So moved.
Fine.
Support? Is there support?
Support for Cummings, I'll support it.
I thought I heard too, yeah.
We have motion for the, approve this consent agenda, motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Woosterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Okay. Next, we have our superintendent's report. Ms. Klein.
Okay, your packet contains 3 invoices from Rowe Engineering for approval and payment from the following funds. Invoice number 101877, so this has been split, $3,902.50 to be paid from 101-299-821.000 and $3,090 to be paid from the DWRF checking. Do you want me to read them off one by one, or keep going?
You can keep going. I think.
Okay. Invoice number 101153. I don't know if anyone has noticed or not, but there was a corrected amount for invoice 101153. It should be $2,505 to be paid from the DWRF checking. And invoice number 102498. So that is broke down with $550 to be paid from 101-299-821.000. And another, in a separate amount, $377. And the amount are out of the fund 101-299-821.000 and $12,767.50 to be paid from the DWRF checking.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments?
Is there any specific reason that the $550 and the $377 are the same account number?
It's just the way it was listed in the invoice, so I'm just making sure that everyone knows how those need to be paid.
So for invoice 101877, do I have a motion?
I move that we pay invoice number 101877 in the amount of $3,902.50 from account 101-299-821.000.
There's also the second.
And the other half?
And, thank you, that's right, and the $3,090 even from DWRF checking. Thank you.
Support, Spencer.
Motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Woosterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Invoice 101153.
I'd move to pay invoice 101153 in the amount of $2,505 from DWRF checking.
Is there a second?
Support from Cummings.
Motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Woosterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Invoice 102498. Are there any questions or discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll move to pay invoice 102498 with $550 coming from account 101-299-821.000 grant services, an additional $377 from the same account, and $12,767.50 from DWRF checking for a total of $13,694.50.
Support. Jamie beat me to it.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Woosterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Motion passed. Next up.
Okay, A-Ton Tree Services. Your packet contains a quote from A-Ton Tree Service for 4 locations in the township needing tree removal, trimming, and stump grinding. The township has been using this company for tree trimming and removal since 2019. The total cost for these 4 locations, which include Township Hall, Oscoda Beach Park, the cemetery, and Old Orchard Park, would be $15,550. And if approved together, we would receive a discount of $800, bringing the total to $14,750. This service requires Township Board approval.
Ooh, how do we move on that? Would we move to approve the Old Orchard Park or the tree trimming for the township in the designated 4 areas for $15,550 with an amount not to exceed $14,750? Or would we just approve the $14,750 and even though that's not the total amount? I don't know.
I think what we would do is approve the $14,750, but then the amounts that are listed here would have to take $200 off each one. So in other words, we would approve $5,600 from the fund 101-265-974, and then $2,000 from the next fund. So we'll just take $200 off each one of the amounts that was here. That'll get us to the $14,750.
Oh, you mean for each one of the, okay. Then I would move to approve payment to A-Ton Tree Removal for the trimming quote in the total amount of $14,750 to be paid from $5,000. Now is the, okay, pause. Is the $5,800 that's coming out of the fund ending in
Yes.
974, is that including the $200 or not
Yes,
including?
that is
So I would need to take that and drop that to $5,600 for approval.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
that would be easier.
I'm sorry, Jamie, I didn't hear you.
I think you can just approve the entire amount, and then when they enter the invoices into the purchase order system, they'll just adjust it there for the discount.
So we don't need to have each of the individual funds in the motion?
I wouldn't think so. Tammy said it would be easier to do the amount,
All right, well.
I
then-
just broke it down
so you
so
could see it.
the board would know for each area.
All right, well, then I guess my motion is complete to approve $14,750 to A-Ton Tree Service for 4 locations in Oscoda Township as listed, with the funds coming from the accounts as listed as well.
Support by Cummings.
So we have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Woosterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Motion passed. Next is the fireworks.
All right, as I mentioned at last month's meeting, I had been waiting on feedback from Great Lakes Fireworks regarding pricing for 2022's show. The board agreed to have a budget of $12,000 for this year's event. On March 30th, I received an email correspondence from Mr. Bruce Tyree with Great Lakes Fireworks. He stated that due to an increase in shipping, fuel, insurance, and in labor of around 30%, there would be no way they could absorb these costs. He did, however, offer options to abate the deficit. The first option would be to increase our display to make up for the price increase and maintain the same show, which that total would be $15,600. The second option would be to keep the current budget and have a decreased display. Lastly, the township could vote to land in the middle of the $12,000 and the increase of $15,600.
I knew it.
And I had been waiting for an email from him, and that's what he came up with on the 30th. I did have a phone conversation with him, and he said it was totally unavoidable to either do one of these three options. But he said they agreed to have us, and we have nothing in writing, so they agreed to keep us with our date. So we have our date, just the board needs to decide how you want to proceed with that.
I mean, me personally, I would prefer to bump it up to the higher dollar amount and keep the same display. But I don't know how the rest of the board would like to. But my question is that the, we only budgeted $12,000 for fireworks this year, didn't we?
Right.
So the difference is going to have to come from a different account.
Right.
What account would that come from?
I would have to take a look, but there are other options.
But
There's
we'll
other
need
places to look.
I'm sorry, pardon?
Without seeing it right in front of me, I would have to look.
Right, but we'll have to approve the allocation.
Yes.
So that means we'll have to have another item on this in the future if we do want to proceed with
And
one of these
are-
three options.
And if we give you 2 weeks to look at this, are we going to lose our, or we still have
No,
plenty of time?
We have our date.
Right, but
He doesn't
we have
require-
plenty of time. I don't like waiting to the last second and then making everybody nervous and,
Right, and he's expecting a call from me tomorrow. So I can call him and let him know that, we wanted to make sure that we had enough money allocated for extra.
So we decide tonight and figure out the money, location in a future meeting.
Yes.
Fine enough. He's not looking for prepayment.
No, we usually pay half, I believe, so.
Okay,
so I
fine.
think we should approve the higher budget today and then figure out where it's coming from.
Well, that's if we're going to go down that road. I'm not saying it's my decision. I'm just thinking
Right,
of
well, I'm-
logistics, So
Well, I would
there's-
move
There's
to-
other board members over there too.
Yeah,
Right.
I'd like to discuss it too.
Pardon me again?
Yeah, I got a
I said I'd
question.
like, I got a couple questions too.
Sure.
Go ahead, Steve.
I'll go.
Sure, I'll go. Have we verified with Oscoda Township that they're okay with the price increase and paying the other half?
Well, I did not want to give that phone call until I had some sort of approval from the
Okay.
board, so.
And I would like to see, I know I keep saying this every year, but I know that it would be a total of $15,600, but I'd like to see us go to $17,000. And I know that we can find that in the budget.
Probably.
A couple years ago, when we had that excess, the show was really good, and everybody really loved it a lot, and
Yeah.
last year's kind of dropped back to where our usual was, and I'd like to see it go back up again. That's just my thoughts.
I would agree with that, but I think the point that we're at here is we have a contract with them, and what they're saying is they need, in order to provide the fireworks that they had proposed in the contract, they have to have more money.
Right.
So what I would suggest is that we bump up the amount for this year to the 15.6, and then for next year's, when we enter into a contract with Great Lakes Fireworks, we voluntarily upgrade, say we want an additional fireworks at a $17,000 level, or whatever, between now and then we come up with.
I'd rather do it for this year, but
I'm just not sure that they would be able to provide the additional fireworks, is what I'm getting at.
I'm pretty sure they could.
If we wanted to increase, I believe he would, yes.
Well, Mr. Spencer, you have a motion.
I got
Or
a
you
few
have another
questions.
question, sorry.
I guess going back a few years, I think it was, maybe on the board I was on, did we not do like a little bit of a fundraising within the community to help offset some of these
Yep.
costs?
We talked about it before, and I brought it up as in reference to another thing with community fundraising for local events, where they did do the fireworks fundraising after a big kerfuffle, and everyone was all excited to help pay for the fundraising, and then the year after it dropped a little bit, and then the year after it dropped a little more, and then they just took they took the money collection right off the shelf and nobody did it. And it went right back to, it's coming out of the township's pocket solely. So it was nice to have the citizen editions while we had them, but I don't think we can depend on those
And
running
is this
forward.
something that we can partner with the Convention and Visitors Bureau from the hotel tax, bed tax? We ask them to contribute a little bit?
Probably.
That's not a bad idea. We'd
And
have
And
to
the
ask them.
chamber.
We did get a contribution also last year from the chamber, so I can check into that as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see us pursue both those options if we can, but I'm good for having a good show. That's what everybody comes up here for.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we have lots of questions to answer, so I would move to postpone this item until our next regularly scheduled board meeting at this time.
She needs an
I
answer.
think we need an answer on this
She needs an
for our
answer.
contract.
To go, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, for the,
I'd like to pursue funding from, start a fundraising and then, talk to the chamber
I
as
think
well.
what needs to happen tonight, we have to approve an amount. But Ms. Klein's given us three options. We can go with 12,000, we can go with 15,600, we can go with somewhere in between.
well, that's why I was asking about the timing. Do we
Miss-
have time to make these decisions? And if we do have time, then I don't think she necessarily needs an answer on it until our next board meeting, would she? Which would also give her time to bring all the rest of the funding options to us for review with the dedication or not from Asabel and from the CVB and from the Chamber of Commerce, and then we can have all those totals available and then make a decision. Do you need an answer on the 15,600 right now?
Well, we are committed for the 12, so what I can do is call him tomorrow, and if I can check into these other requests for, like, through the chamber, and I can, if it's okay with the board, I can contact Asabel and see what they would be willing to go up to on their amounts and bring it back on the 25th. We have our spot, and we have up to the 12,000. We just need a decision sooner than later on what that show is gonna look like.
And I would think tonight we could make a decision on the amount we want to spend.
Right.
Because whatever we decide for fundraising or grants or whatever will come, I mean, we can't, I wouldn't think we would hold up the fireworks saying,
No.
well, we haven't got enough donations
Right.
because,
Right.
so we can't do it. So whatever
That's right.
donations come in would just be kind of a bonus to what the township would normally pay. So I guess what
So
we
we're
have to
just-
decide on is
We'll just leave
the
that as,
amount.
we'll just leave the possible donations as a variable that will come off the bottom line after everything is
Or
said and
add to
done.
the show.
Or add to it.
Well, I
Right.
mean, if she's asking for a price right now to approve the number of
I think it's
fireworks,
basic, though. I think if it's at least this amount, but it could go higher. I think that's what Tammy was saying. Correct.
But Tammy, you said also that, we can increase it going forward. He was
Yes.
okay with that? So
Yes.
it's really just more of a placeholder than anything at this
Right.
point in time.
well, then I rescind my motion to postpone, and I will move to approve the $15,600 bump in the budget from an account to be determined at our next board meeting.
I can bring back the findings the next meeting, and if you want to go up to the 17, I will let Bruce know that we're contemplating going a little bit higher.
I'll support Jeremy's motion.
So I have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Worcesterbarth. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Worcesterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes,
Mr. Palmer.
Yes, motion passed. The next several items in your packet are the ordinances revisions that I was informed by our planning and zoning director. We need to have our attorney has some thoughts on those and would like to have us look at some of those ideas. So we're going to remove that from the agenda tonight. So the next one up would be Resolution 2022 dash 271.
Okay, so this is a two-part. I thought these two needed to actually go together. The first part is going to be the ordinance, the ethics ordinance. I believe that needs to be passed first, and then the second part would be the engagement letter from the ethics attorney to be ethics counsel.
So you want two separate motions on this?
Yes.
Okay. So the first motion would be on the ordinance 2022-271.
Did-
Any discussion or comment about? We have the original that was placed in here, and then the revisions by the attorney. Were there any questions or comments?
I was unable to attend that work session, but one of the residents came up and said that you guys had taken out the board of local citizens that will look over those ethics requests. Was her reasoning correct, and did that happen?
The thought was not so much that there aren't reasonable people in our community that could make a decision on that. The problem is a number of the board members here are lifelong residents, family, friends, relatives, work associates, and it's very difficult to get people for our boards just to serve, period. I mean, we're short an alternate on the Planning Commission and on the Zoning Board of Appeals as stands right now. Those two positions are open. And the idea of trying to find 5 people that would not be a friend, relative, work associate, whatever, of the various, not only this board, but the Planning Commission Board, the Zoning Board of Appeals, all of our employees, would be, in my opinion, an exercise in futility, trying to find 5 people that would not that they couldn't be unbiased, but if you have someone that's a friend or a relative of the person that's being questioned, that's a problem. It's a problem for the person on the board. And so what was suggested by the attorney was that we simply hire an ethics attorney, someone that specializes in ethics law, to take on those functions. And that's where we have in the packet
Sounds reasonable.
a legal law firm that was suggested by our township attorney, and I think that's a reasonable way to proceed. I'm hoping that this is something we'll never have to use.
Right.
But
And the other thing that was stated in the work session too, even though this ends up being a resolution, it can be rescinded at any time and be changed. So it's really up to this board and also the citizens, if they're not happy with it, that it can be changed going forward. It would just have to be a rescind and then.
So was that that was really the only major change in the ordinance, was the dropping of the 5 citizen board and just having an attorney that specializes in those things, just to make a recommendation to the board on how to proceed?
yeah,
That's
well,
pretty,
Right.
that's
Yes.
that's how I read it. I'm just asking for clarity.
the attorney would be the sort of adjudicator, I guess, if there was a ethics ordinance violation presented, then that would go to the attorney for review, and the attorney has, as I understand from Ms. Klein, this ethics attorney has reviewed our ordinance, is very satisfied with the ordinance that our attorney drew up. So that
Yes.
will be his or her guideline of interpreting any ethics violations that might come up.
So then if there is, so the process would be possible ethics violation information is provided to the attorney for the ethics violation. The attorney reviews it and and submits a document to our board for public review of whether or not the attorney believes that was actually a violation of our ethical standards.
That's my understanding, something to that. I mean, we could have there could be a hearing between the people that are, you know, the people that are involved. It would be on a case-by-case basis. It's difficult to, you know, say
Oh, yeah.
right now exactly what could happen, but having an attorney that specializes in ethics ordinances would be, in my opinion, a great way to solve this problem, so.
Good deal.
So did anyone have any questions about the ordinance itself? There's the original version and then the revised version. You can see the red changes. Do I have a motion?
Am I allowed to move to approve at this time?
Sure.
I didn't know if we had the reading, and Jamie caught me last time. Cut me to the quick.
Just trying to help you out.
No, you did great, you did great. I would move to approve ordinance 2022-271, an ordinance to amend the Oscoda Township Code of Ordinances to add a code of ethics.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Woosterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion's passed. Now we need a motion to approve the law firm for the Ethics Council.
I'll make a motion that we approve the council engagement letter as presented.
Support.
Support.
Cummings.
By Cummings.
Yeah, you're fine.
Are you Cummings?
We have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Woosterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Motion's passed. Next is Resolution 2022-05. This has to do with the competitive grant funding. Are there any questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve resolution number 2022-05.
Support. Woosterbarth?
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Woosterbarth. Roll call, please.
Mr. Woosterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion's passed. Resolution 2022-06. This has to do with our capital improvement bond funding.
Oh,
Are there any
yes.
questions, comments, concerns?
I had some questions, and I asked today of Tammy and then talked to Rick before the meeting, so I'm good.
What were those questions?
My questions were, was this a new bond? And they said, no, it's a continuation of the DWRF bond, and it goes year by year, and next year will be the last year that they have to come forward and present this, unless we get other funding to take care of it in the meantime. Also, my other question was, when we first started the DWRF, I needed clarity on whether to have two checking accounts, one for the debt and one for the construction, as we have in the past. And at first, it was said, no, I did not need to do that, but reading the documents that were in the board packet today, or tonight, for this evening, it does specifically say that. So I will be opening a debt retirement checking account also, besides the construction account.
Cool. Thank you.
Very good. I have a comment on this. I have been pushing all along with our legislators that we receive grant funding for these water main extensions. I don't feel it's justified that the residents of the township, that we take on debt to do these projects to get clean water to the residents. And what I believe, and perhaps Mr. Freeman would come up and explain this to us maybe a little better, but my hope is that this $3 million capital improvement bond funding would be sort of a backup, since we have tentatively been awarded a couple of fairly large amounts. So, Mr. Freeman,
And that is correct. Based on what presentation we had at the last meeting was with the new money that has been identified that's coming through Sue Aller's office, possibly funding through Senator Peters' office that we just submitted on, the C2R2 grant money. We're gonna be looking at all of those as they come in, and then that would offset any current and future loans that we would have to continue to move the projects forward. So that is the plan, is that as that money becomes available, we either pay off loans that are already sitting out there that we've already closed on, which we have just the one from last year, or if the timing is that unfortunately if we'd have to close on this year's, we could pay that one off, and then also finish the projects that we have for the next 2 years.
and with having this larger pot of money at our disposal, we'll be able to do larger phases, more phases at one time, or?
That has yet to be determined. I mean, the other thing that we have to look at is what is feasibly possible during a construction season.
Right.
So we would look at that as far as what we could put out there and reasonably get a contractor to bid on for a construction season. The other thing is we're seeing is material availability is also critical right now. So those would all have to be factored into it once we had the funding identified truly where it's coming from and how it can be spent.
And I see the phases we have proposed for this year are pretty large
Yes.
projects.
Correct.
So, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Thought about asking Rick another question, but since he sat down. No, I'm kidding. Just because you walked all the way over there. No, you're good. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2022-6.
Support by Cummings.
Motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Woosterbar,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes?
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer.
Yes, motion passed. Next, we go to the other in our agenda. First is the Develop Iosco representative replacement.
I can speak to some of that if you want to. I don't know if you're going to represent the topic. Tammy?
I was just going to say that Mr. Sutton is requesting to replace Mr. Cummings as the representative for the Develop Iosco.
Yeah. I have schedule conflicts, and he has attended the last couple of meetings, that not being very recent, but starting last June and then missing some. I don't think they had, excuse me, had some for a while. And then he had a recent meeting, I think a couple of weeks ago. And so I made the comment to him, I said, you know, if you'd like to take this on, if you're going to take the time during the day, during business hours, if you'd like to cover it, that's fine. And he said he would like to do that, so he will take it out of his business day and cover it through the clerk's office as an official representative of Oscoda Township. But we appoint this as a board vote, so we just have to do an official replacement.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand there's not a lot involved in this. At least in the past, this hasn't been a very active.
Well, to be honest, the past being the past and the future being what we hope a whole lot brighter, that's the reason why he's getting involved, is that there's been significant changes within the group since I last attended, which has been a year and a half or 2 years ago.
Okay.
So anyway, the point being that he actually has been at the front of some of the conversations where they've been reorganizing and setting this group up to be able to produce something.
And I think it's only appropriate when somebody's not here that we appoint them to a board position.
Well, he asked for it. He came to, no, he
Seems
came
fair.
to me. He came to me. We're not voting for somebody who's not here and doesn't know it's coming.
I
No.
understand.
So,
Well said, Mr. Palmer, well said.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, what is it, voluntold or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so then I move that Josh Sutton, our township clerk, replace myself, Tim Cummings, as the official representative for Oscoda Township at the Develop by Osco meetings.
I'll support that, Spencer.
Motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Woosterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Motion's passed. Item number 2 is request from our clerk for a precinct tabulator. My understanding is we've been relying on borrowing one from the county,
Yes.
and this year it's not available, so I believe he wants to purchase one of our own.
And I also believe that at the same time, he is asking to go out for grant reimbursement for the tabulator as well.
Yes.
I didn't understand a point you
For some of
mentioned
the
earlier, Mr. Palmer, about it's not available, or was available, but it's not now? What does that mean?
We used to borrow one from the county, and they have already loaned that to someone else.
Oh, I see.
So it's not available to us, is my understanding.
I see.
Is that,
Yes.
So this is the device that you walk up to when you vote and you stick your ballot into and it sucks it in and tabulates it? Is that, am I getting that right? I'm just trying to imagine the
don't know
device
what-
that we're gonna
yeah.
spend 5K on here.
I believe it is.
I think,
Yes. Shelley
Yeah.
said yes.
yeah.
Yes, that's the tabulator.
Yeah,
Okay,
we already
and
have three, don't we, or is it 4?
Currently, we have 5.
5, thank you.
And we are in need of a 6th one because of our absentee ballots. So right now, we have an absentee counting board, and we only have 1 tabulator in the room for 4 precincts. So that's why we're borrowing from the county. So we'd like to get a second one in that room so we can have 2 precincts on 1 tabulator.
Right, okay.
so basically, we would spend $5,295 out of the proposed account, and then we would apply for a reimbursement grant for $1,500 of that $5,200.
Correct.
I would move that we approve the tabulator purchase request in the amount of $5,295 to be paid from the Elections Fund 101-262-890.000.
Support, Woosterbarth.
Is that going to, is that budgeted? Does he have the money budgeted, or are you going to have to do an allocation for that?
No, he has money in contingency.
Okay.
I think isn't there 8,000 budgeted for that in the,
Pardon me?
I think there's 8,000 budgeted for elections.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Do we know if he's taking it from the election fund, or is it taken out of his just
He said he was taking it from contingency.
contingency fund?
Motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Woosterbarth. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Woosterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion's passed. Next, number 3 is, you all have a memo from Ms. Klein regarding our assessor pertaining to extending her contract.
This was late in the day today that Nancy had requested to sit down and have a discussion with me with the door closed. So she knows that we are struggling to find an assessor, and she has graciously agreed to stay till the end of June, just to make sure we get to the July tax bill cycle.
Right.
And I would really like you to approve this, just to be safe. I would like her to be present at an onboarding for a new assessor. I think she's got a lot of information.
Are we
to
still
share.
looking for our own assessor in this township, or have we started the outsourcing process?
We will have to outsource. We'll probably end up with remote, because
So I've heard.
nobody wants to work in office.
Have we only advertised the one time, or is there just nobody that does in-house anymore?
There's not anyone that does in-house, not in this area, anyway.
Yeah, didn't that get kind of pushed out by the state level?
Right, and
Yeah.
even the inquiries for in-house were directed at remote. I had 3 or 4 inquiries if we were going to do remote assessing, and at that time it was no. So have to try some different angles.
Are you going to be bringing those back before the board to talk about some alternatives there
Oh,
very
yes.
quickly?
Yes.
Well, in the meantime, I would move to approve our current assessor's contract extension in the amount of $30,000 that will extend her current contract until June 30th of 2022, and the terms in the document.
Support Worcester Barth.
And I would just say, comment that we are very fortunate to have Nancy Weigert as our assessor, and she has made it clear she wants to retire, but she's been willing now to stay on for an additional 6 months now to help us out. She didn't have to do that. She's a wonderful person. So we have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Worcesterbarth to extend the assessor's contract. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Woosterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you,
Thank
Nancy.
you,
Thank
Nancy. Is she here
that-
today?
No.
That concludes the items on our agenda. Next, we have a public comment. You have 4 minutes. You can speak on anything that you would like to discuss. Do we have anyone that would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Tonight, I am Robert Tazier, and I am speaking about Oscoda Rock Fest. Yay.
Rock on.
So Oscoda Rock Fest this year, August 12th and 13th, at the Veterans Memorial Park, right here on Skeel Avenue. We have nationally known acts of Saving Abel and Tantric, along with Mag Dillon. Those are our national acts for headlining the show. Mag Dillon will be on a Friday show. Saving Abel and Tantric are well-known national acts. Along with them, we have several local bands that will be taking the stage, especially on Friday. Friday is going to be more of a local-driven show, and there will be 4 acts on Friday, starting from 5 to 10. And on Saturday, again, we will be putting the bands up on around 12:30, 1 o'clock until 10 o'clock at night. We're going to have several well-known Michigan acts along with our national acts. We're going to have several food trucks, and new addition this year is we're going to have Even the Odds. Even the Odds is a carnival-type acts, if you like all the weird stuff, the 3-foot mohawks, the jugglers, the people that swallow flames and spit flame and all of that fine stuff. That's part of that. There are also going to be 5 nationally known tattoo artists coming from the Discovery Channel. So this will be a very good event. Everything going, everybody get your tattoos ready. We get 15% of that money going to the Veterans Park, so roll up your sleeves and any other body parts you want tattooed, and let's have at it. And I would also like to say, since it was talked about for the fireworks, we have several different things going on our Oscoda Rock Fest, and one of the things that you could probably get is a fireworks committee to get a booth out there And I know the Lions Club does very well selling tickets for a raffle there. They sold over 200 tickets last year, so, I mean, that's means that we're here to serve the community. And I'd like to also remind everybody that all of our proceeds for this goes to the Veterans Memorial Park Foundation. That foundation that we were tasked to do this year is to raise funds for the War Dog Memorial. If anybody cares to know about what that is. During the Vietnam War, when we were pulling out of Vietnam, the Department of Defense had those war dogs listed as equipment. They euthanized over 5,000 Vietnam war dogs. 3 years ago, they built a War Dog Memorial in Washington, D.C. 2 years ago, they built one in Michigan, down in Holly, Michigan. And a lot of those dogs, believe it or not, were flown right out of this Wordsmith Air Force Base to Vietnam, along with their trainers. And it's only appropriate for us to build them a memorial. It's not cheap. $80,000 to $100,000 is what we're looking at raising for this. So please come on out to Oscoda Rock Fest. Support our Veterans Memorial Park Foundation. Let's build the best War Dog Memorial that can possibly be built. I think it's appropriate for our community and for our country to honor these animals and their trainers. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks.
Was there anyone else want to make public comment? Yes.
Right. Since I don't get to participate any longer, since you guys eliminated Zoom, I figured since I was in town, I would try to come out and be at this meeting. Like I said before, my name's Deborah Rauch. I live in New York. I have 2 homes here. I grew up in Oscoda. I left in 1982 to go with my husband. He served in the United States Air Force for 24 years. And we ended up landing in New York, actually at a base that's also like Wordsmith it closed like around the same time as Wordsmith. And my husband still works for the Air Force. He's been doing that for November will be 20 years. So I'm a disabled veteran's wife, several brothers that served in the military, and my father was in the military for almost 30 years. And that's one of the reasons I'm kind of passionate about the Zoom issue. I know there's a lot of us. I voted in Oscoda even though I left in 82, I voted in Oscoda up until 2002 when my husband retired. And the Zoom really made it easier for people, which back when I was in California, in Nevada, in Idaho, in Florida, in New York, wherever we were at the time. It was hard for us to keep up with what was going on in our town. And the Zoom really, to me, when I started being more interested when I bought my house here, it made me feel like I was part of the community again and I could follow what was going on in the community. And that's one of the reasons I was really upset about you guys stopping that. I think it's not fair for people like us that, you know, have to be away from home. So anyways, I would also like to say that I read in the paper that the EIC contract is coming up again for the EIC director. I don't really see what he's done for this town, and I know a lot of people feel that way. I don't see a lot of improvements. I see a lot of division, and I would really hope that you would consider that before you vote to renew his contract. Let's see. You guys just voted on the ethics. You didn't give us any information about this ethics attorney, like where he's from, how much he's going to be paid. you know, I think that was something that maybe we should have been told when you guys just now voted on all that, you know, where, what, like, are we paying him a retainer? Is he gonna be, you know, or is he just as a need basis, or how that's gonna work? I'm trying to get this all in there. Water, I know we've talked about the water issue several times, and I know there's an issue with water leaking. And like I said, I have 2 homes here, and all of a sudden I noticed my bill is like doubled. And I'm not even there most of the time. And all of a sudden I'm paying, I used to pay like $22, and I'm paying, this month it was $50. And I'm not sure why, what's going on, but I think you guys really need to get on this with this water issue. And are you guys raising the rates because we're losing water, or why are our rates going up so much, you know? And I'm not the only person that I've heard that from, that their water bills are really going up. So I think maybe that's something you guys should talk about and maybe explain to the citizens why we're paying, especially when we're losing so much. Thank you.
Thank you. To the point of the ethics attorney, we didn't discuss that. The information was in our packet. We're not paying a retainer. He'll be paid on an as-needed basis. His normal fee is $3.50 an hour. He's giving us a discount to $2.50 an hour for whatever time he's used. Like I said before, I'm hoping this is something we'll never have to use. Would be ideal, but it'll be on an as-needed basis. So, answer your question.
And those fees can be reviewed in section 3 of the letter that's included in the packet.
Yes. So next is board comment.
Did anybody else?
One, I just want to remind, there's a work session on April 19th. Jeremy, Tim?
Yep.
Okay, what? There's a possibility I will not be there. I may have to be on the West Coast, but I'll let everybody know ahead of time.
I'll be able to be there at the beginning of the meeting. However, I have an LDFA meeting and the new airport manager's there, so I'm the chairman and I'll have to attend that at 4 o'clock.
Steve, just because of the comment, then my
Oh,
absence
it's-
from the meeting was because of a clerical error at Township Hall.
I was
So
just joking around with you.
it's okay, but I take it as a point of clarification for you with the public now.
Yep.
So, and I do have a topic. I wanted to ask, or just bring up the topic of confusion that occurred in social media and I guess among our residents. When Township Hall closes, what is the procedure and how do we communicate it? I was under the impression that we had a vehicle in our new website that we could, indicate that we were closed for a particular reason. I thought we established something with all the COVID trouble we had over the last few years. So I was just wondering what happened and why the confusion occurred recently with the weather when we had to close for a day.
I personally put that up on the alert on the website, so, and the proper procedure, as the previous board had voted.
Yep.
I contacted the radio station, and Melinda contacted all the department heads.
Okay.
So
we actually
if
did.
there was an issue, I never heard about it.
Oh, got it. So we did follow the procedure that was established,
Yes.
so thank you. Okay,
Yes.
good, fair enough. All right, well then, I guess, when people are trying to go to Township Hall and it looks like, schools are closed and buses aren't rolling, then it's probably a point of maybe go check the website, just to make double sure. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
Jeremy?
I apologize for missing the work session about the ethics ordinance. I was unavailable, and it was very irritating for me. But figured I'd toss that out there because I did want to be here, and I just couldn't be here. So, but I will be at the next one.
I may not.
then that'll be Mr. Spencer's opportunity to come back.
Oh, I'll hear about it before that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and one more thing. We also, yes, I know we turned off Zoom, but we did not turn off the ability for you to watch the meetings. We merely turned off the ability for people to call in and comment instead of showing up and showing us their beautiful faces. So we're glad that you came. Thank you. And you're welcome to watch our board meetings at your leisure on the MIC TV channel of YouTube. And we will be posting the recordings of the meetings to our websites as we get those finished. So,
And you can actually watch them live.
yes, you can watch them live. On YouTube, you can watch them live. We are being streamed as we speak. Hello, world.
I'm good.
Other comments?
I'm good.
I'd just like to thank everyone for coming out. There was a mention about the water leaks. We're working on that. We have had several here just recently that we've fixed. They were major water leaks. And my understanding, it was explained to me, is that when you have a water leak, and perhaps it's been a long, slow leak, and then when it finally blows and you fix it, it creates pressure on those pipes that weren't there before, and that subsequently creates more leaks in other spots that are weak. So it's sort of a chain reaction kind of a thing, and we are pursuing those. I know if people have, I personally had a situation where I had a leak in my house. At the time, it was a vacation house, so we weren't here most of the winter. And so our bill was very low, and in March, I believe it was of that year, I received a bill that was somewhere around $100. And when we came up to the cottage on Memorial Day weekend, with my jet ski in tow and my two young children and two of their friends that came with us, and when I stepped into our cottage, there was 6 inches of water on the floor in the entire place. And when I stepped in, a wave went through the kitchen. Apparently a valve had stuck open and was pumping water for a very long time into our cabin. So those things happen with vacation homes, unfortunately. So that's all I have. Thanks again for everyone for coming out, and move to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Thank you.